Vajrayana. The second thing I would like to address is that right now we're learning the Surangama Sutra, and I really encourage lots of the practitioners. I really encourage practitioners to then engage in deep analysis and research in different sutras. For example, some of you could then engage in the Surangama Sutra study, and some of you could engage in the Amitabha Sutra, and so on. I think right now having this kind of research classes and groups are really great. Nowadays, what I observe is that people nowadays do not engage in profound and deep research. If you don't do that, then it is just like that you're only going to the primary school and middle schools where you don't have to engage in lots of profound and deep research on your own. But once you enter into university level and bachelor and master's degree and so on, then you have to be able to do research on yourself. Therefore, I really encourage you to pick a field, pick an area to do deep research and very focused research, such as Zen Buddhism, such as Surangama Sutra, and so on. For example, if you were to pick a Surangama Sutra to deeply do research about this, then you have to engage for 3 to 5 years of time to study. Or you could pick one author. For example, you could research into Padmasambhava's life, or Dakini Yeshitogyo. Look at all the Western scholars in each schools, in each universities. There are so many scholars and professors who would invest a long time in their life, or even whole life of their time, to study a particular author, such as Padmasambhava, Yeshitogyo, Jigme Limpa, and Marpa Lotsawa, as well as many other great masters. Or you could study in different areas, in different sutras or shastras. In fact, lots of the sutras and shastras are already picked by lots of professors to study, and there are only a few of the sutras which are not left, and very unheard. Lots of the unheard sutras are left. Therefore, I think it is quite important to pick your area. Otherwise, you will not be left with a sutra or shastra to study. Just like when you have to pick a title, if other people picked your title, then you can't pick that title anymore. So, let you be a monastic or a lay practitioner, I really think that you have to have a very thick and very steady foundation in Buddhism first. Otherwise, to talk about that, you want to study the Surangama Sutra and engage 3 or 5 years of your life in it. I think it will be rather very difficult for you to understand to start with. Just as the other day when we talk about Vajrayana, the person who first, after reading the Surangama Sutra, he decided to get ordained and studied Surangama Sutra for his whole life. And then he dreamt of the 3 saints of the West who came into his dreams and was going to take him away, which means that it is an indication that he's going to die. And he told the 3 saints, the 2 bodhisattvas and Amitabha, that he has to then invest his time in studying the Surangama Sutra, and then he can die. So I think this is quite important to engage and to pick your areas that you want to invest your time. Don't just write down your names. The other day we write down that we ask people to write down the names to make aspiration to teach, to give a teaching of Dharma to Africa. And lots of people wrote down their names. But later on, when we did lots of deep research, they said, no, I'm a little too sick to go, or I have other engagement, I can't go. So I really hope that you consider and make your mind, make up your mind and then proceed in a steadfast way. So on one hand, we should then we should have a breakthrough in terms of your own study, and on the other, you should have breakthrough in terms of your research. So if you were to spend your whole life in one particular area, one particular sutra or shastra, such as Madhyamika and Chittamatra or Illuminous Essence and so on, all of these, that would be really wonderful. In any kind of areas, it would be great. The other thing I would like to say is I could say that I could do that within the whole Sangha over here, but I will just say it in public. That is about the department management. The other day, I went around and to check their sanitary qualities. For example, in class, I said that I really need to see how each classes are keeping, whether they're keeping well with their environment. Is your classroom clean and beautified? And I went around, I thought it was really good actually, but you should then continuously to keep that. On top of that, I really encourage all the management team to walk around in your managed area, at least around that area, to clean up and to make sure that every place is clean and nice. I know right now there are lots of constructions going on. And I really hope that you could pay attention to details. For example, there are some departments in front of their door. There are some really weird-looking pipes and been lying there for 2 or 3 months. And some places that they have lots of garbage laying around their entrance. This really doesn't look good. According to Chittamatra school, it says that everything is the manifestation of your mind. Then you can contemplate on what your environment say about your department, about you. So I really encourage all the management team to walk around. On the other hand, it is not just about departments. You also should consider about your areas as well. Some of you made your shrine really beautiful, but outside of your door, you don't care anymore. There are garbage is lying around and you don't care at all. This is really not acceptable. So in terms of sanity, the sanitary aspect, in terms of the cleanness and organizedness, everything, you should then organize them and beautify your environment, extend your cleanness and your responsibilities to at least 2 or 3 meters outside of your door. According to Vinaya Sutra, it says that a practitioner should clean the area, should sweep the dust, sweep the obstacles. That's what a practitioner should do. Today is the 16th, I think, of September, and after maybe 2 weeks, what I'll do is that after 2 weeks, your environment should be better than now. And if I walk around and see that it is not cleaned, it is not beautified, it is not organized, then I will point it out directly. Is it Dharma? Is it not? Is it something in between? It's something that I think I have to mention to you. I have to bring it into to your attention. So now let's talk about Surangama Sutra. In fact, the Surangama Sutra is crucial to Buddhism, and when you're listening to the Mahayana teachings such as this, you should have a joyful mind. Why a joyful mind? First of all, is that you should be joyful that you have the freedom to listen to the Dharma. There are people who are not free in terms of their mind, and some of them, they are not free of their physical body. There are all kinds of non-freedom situations. The other day, I went out with a person, and we were walking around, and all of a sudden, and over there, he then stretched his legs, and he said that, Lama Ching, this is so happy for me. I said, why is that? He said that I was in the prison for a few years, and over there, I cannot even stretch my legs as I wish. In fact, nowadays, there are people who are then controlled by the external phenomena that they cannot move, and there are people who are then fettered by their own emotions or by some maras, that their spiritual intention is not free. There are people who don't have any illness, such as this person I know from my hometown. He had this illness. He was crippled for many years, and he doesn't have any freedom to walk around because he was suffering from the pain. And he told me that after he then after he went to the hospital, he was cured, and then he said that he felt much happier and much more free, and now he can go to sleep because the illness doesn't make him suffer anymore. So there are all kinds of things that could stop us from listening to the Dharma, such as illness, such as physical or mental fetters. In fact, look at yourself now. You have all the favorable conditions to listen to the Dharma. If you were deaf, if you were mute, then you must have lots of admiration for people who have full capacity to listen and to speak. Then, right now you have all of these, so you should have the attitude of joyfulness to listen to the Dharma. The second reason is that, in fact, the Surangama Sutra is rather different. In the Surangama Sutra, it talked about the Surangama Samadhi, and the Surangama Samadhi that is mainly described in the Sutra of Surangama Samadhi, which is translated by Kumarajiva. I really hope that you could read into that sutra as well, and whenever I have opportunity, I would like to give teachings on that too. In fact, I have the full oral transmission of the Surangama Samadhi Sutra, and I compared the Tibetan version with the Chinese version, which doesn't have much of the difference. And that sutra mainly talks about how Shariputra talked about when the maras are acting up because they don't want to listen to the teachings of Surangama. Then what do we do? And then the Buddha said that that's okay, although the mara is quite active in terms of blocking the teaching of Surangama. But through the blessings and power of Surangama Samadhi, there are 5 ways that the Maras could fetter themselves up on hearing the name of Surangama Sutra. Right away, instantaneously, the Mara, he himself, from himself, because of the power and blessings of Surangama Sutra, the Mara would be fettered by the 5 kinds of fetters. So for people who practice the Surangama then the Surangama Samadhi, then they won't encounter, or they don't have to be afraid of all the maras or destructive spirits. In fact, it is much more deeper than it sounds. According to Master Tai Shu, he said that the Surangama Sutra that we're studying right now is the essence of all the teachings that's taught around the Chinese area, such as Chan and Tiantai, Ling, Ji, and Huayan, and all of these kind of teachings could be included in the Surangama Sutra. And he said that simultaneously, it could completely include all the teachings. You can say that the Surangama Sutra is a Zen text or a Tiantai school text because it talks quite a bit about the shamatha and Vipassana teachings. Just as the Tiantai, from the Tiantai school, at that time, the masters really wanted to receive this text, as well as the Vinaya school and all the other schools. So this sutra is in fact a place with great importance. So let's continue with the actual Surangama Sutra. In fact, the Surangama Sutra doesn't really have lots of the stories recorded of the people who get enlightened based on studying and practicing the Surangama Sutra, compared to those of stories that's told, the stories of enlightenment. In fact, that's told up on the Lotus Sutra and Diamond Sutra. Those have more stories, in fact. According to the memoir of the city and dust of illusory, there's a story. Around 1910, there was a person whose name was Liu Wenhua, and we'll shorten his name for Liu. And he stayed in the Jiaxing temple for about over a month. And around that time, he was quite familiar with the monk over there, the abbot actually. And that monk told him that, in fact, it is quite important to study the Surangama if you ever want to get enlightened. So he then bought his book, the Surangama Sutra, and then he was very happy. Almost felt like he has already gotten the best sutra, and then he went back home with the text. And then he continued to read that sutra. But he couldn't understand the sutra at all. The words are difficult to read, and the content are profound or too deep, and he doesn't understand at all. And then he went to his friends, saying that, could you explain to me? And none of his friends understood what the Surangama Sutra taught. And after that, he went to a temple and asked an old monk to explain the Surangama Sutra to him. The old monk said, well, I only heard of the name of chanting the sutra. I have never heard of the name of teaching the sutra. Why would I teach it? I just need to chant it. So the old monk did not teach him. But then Liu, upon hearing the words from the old monk, he then very much focused upon studying this sutra, continued to read, to contemplate, and he used about 7 to 8 years of time to continuously to read. In fact, to study anything, you need that kind of focus and persistence. Lots of people, in terms of attending the after-class discussion group as well as tutoring others, they stayed for a long period of time, and some of them they only stayed for half a year. Sometimes I would think to myself, oh, this person is very good at giving oral presentations. I wonder what he's doing now. And then later on, I heard that that person is completely vanished, and nobody knows where he was anymore. He couldn't stay in one place for a long period of time. Anyhow, I'm sidetracking and just giving you an example. So this Mr. Liu was very different than the kind of person that I described. He actually persisted and focused upon this teaching for 7 to 8 years, and he was very diligent as well. When he couldn't understand, he would then prostrate, he would supplicate to the Buddha, and supplicate for the blessings so that he could understand this teaching. And then he got very familiar with this teaching, with this text, and the way that he understood the teachings are very different than those of others, and slowly gained lots of insights and understanding of the Surangama Sutra. So for 7 to 8 years, he continued. He persistently read and chanted the sutra. I think this story is just like how drops of water could cut through rocks. It's just like that. And once he was reading this sutra in a Chinese pharmacy store, and there was an accountant at that time was sitting beside him, and his name is Mr. Huang, and Mr. Huang was doing his math beside Mr. Liu, who was reading Surangama Sutra. They were sitting very close to one another, and both of them are very much focused on whatever they're doing. One is reading the Surangama Sutra, and the other one was doing the math. And all of a sudden, Liu had this vision where everything transformed into this pure and glass-like palace. Everything looked like a crystal, including all the phenomena, including all the sentient beings. And the sentient beings had all the 8 classes of rakshas and nagas. All the people, all the rakshas and nagas, and they held celestial beings as well. They held jewels and in the sky. The vision that he had, he directly perceived this beautiful, clear, and pure world. It's completely different than what we perceive right now. He even saw 2 people who he knew from his life before as well. It is said that these two ghosts, but I think it probably means non-humans. It doesn't necessarily have to mean the ghosts, so it could be spirits and so on. It could be bardo beings as well. Anyhow, these two people actually had some conflicts with Liu before. These two people, they died because Liu had this conflict with them, and they both died out of anger. And after these two people died, in fact, during that time when they had conflicts, Liu had this conflict with the two people, and then he felt he had lots of renunciation from this world and completely gave up his family life. And at that time, his wife, because of the neglected family life that Liu held, and the way that he treated his wife then also died out of anger. So, died out of anger is something that's rather a Chinese thing. I think including in the West and different countries, they said that I asked them whether they had some descriptions about died out of anger. And then I asked, how about in Africa? The Africans also said that they don't either. They have some anger and they get mad and upset, but they don't die because of it. They don't express it in such a way. In Tibet, in fact, what we say is that we get angry, we're mad, but we don't say that we die because of anger. In fact, I really hope that we don't continue with this kind of expression anymore, because people can't. You can't really die because of this, and don't express it in such a way because you're just giving yourself some influence. Anyhow, at that time, 4 spirits appeared in front of him in his vision. The 3 people who died because of holding a grudge and anger towards him, and his daughter, who died out of neglect of care. And then the 2 people who had conflicts with him said that we really hope that you could help us to be released from this stage and could go to celestial realm. And Liu then answered, I would love to help you, but what can I do? The 2 people then told him that, can we step on your shoulder? And then in such way we will be able to go to celestial realm. And then Liu said, sure, no problem. And then he did that, and the 2 people went into celestial realm. Same did his wife and his daughter, as well as his parents. So he then released the 6 spirits to the pure realm, to the celestial realm. Either of these 2. Anyhow, the 6 people. At that time, when I first heard of the story that's based on that the 6 people were liberated based on the Surangama Sutra, later on I thought of the story. At first I had some doubts about it, and then later I thought about Pongso Rinpoche told this story about a goat who died with the blessings from Pongso Rinpoche, and then came back to the dream of Pongso Rinpoche, said that because of his blessing and because of the dedication of merit of Pongso Rinpoche, he then was reborn in the celestial realm. So I had a second thought about this story, because this person, though he was not particularly smart at the beginning to understand this teaching, but later on he continued to study, and his study was different than those of the scholars, because he studied at the same time he supplicated for the blessings. So in such a way, he attained some insights and some levels of realization. And in such a way, it is like how it is just like how an old woman, by having complete faith towards the truth that she thought it was the Buddha's tooth, but in fact a dog's tooth, also got liberated because of her faith, not because of the object of supplication. Just like in chemistry labs, that there were some substance at the beginning, and then you put some other substance, and there are some kind of effects that could happen. Therefore, in Buddhism, lots of the blessings or power or energy could occur based on one substance adding on different substance, or one cause and condition adding on different conditions, such as conditions such as supplication, such as faith, such as dedication, and so on. Anyhow, based on the power of the Surangama Sutra, Liu were able to liberate 6 sentient beings who were close to him at that time. And then after that, the vision of such clear and pure appearance disappeared, and Liu suddenly came back to this ordinary world, and he had these doubts, and looked at Huang, who was the accountant that was sitting very close to him, and said, "Did you see that?" And Huang said, "What?" So it shows that it was just a vision appeared in front of Liu. And this story was told by Master Dan Xu. And around 1940, which was the time that before Master Dan Xu got ordained. And when Liu came to Master Dan Xu and told his story, Master Dan Xu said that do not grasp on any of those. It could be just some kind of manifestation, but do not grasp onto it. But anyhow, later on, Master Dan Xu did record the story in his book. What this story shows is that if we were to supplicate, to practice diligently, to supplicate one-pointedly, then we will then be able to attain some realization. This Liu is not someone famous, is not someone who was recorded as a great realized one, but based on his faith and his diligence upon reading and practicing on this teaching, he then were able to liberate 6 sentient beings. So I think he would have no problem to be reborn in the pure realm himself later on as well. Therefore, what I would like to encourage you is that your studying and practicing of the sutra and listening to the Dharma is of great benefit to your past relatives and friends. And the kind of sentient beings that you had lots of connections, even the sentient beings who had grudges towards you, or you have that with each other. Sometimes you would feel that you have lots of karmic creditors, that they would come to you at night, they would come to you to create obstacles to your life, and so on. Then you can put this sutra right beside your pillow and somewhere close to you, and you can then chant Surangama Sutra. All of these kind of ways would be able to help you. And nowadays, what people do is to put the cell phone very close to your pillow rather than the sutra. I think when the karmic creditor come to you, the cell phone and iPads and any of the electronic gadgets, I don't think it would be very helpful to you or to your health. It could create lots of radiation, but if you were to put a sutra that's close to you, it would be of great help. It would act as a protector and protect you from the karmic creditors who would come to you to create difficulties at night. Okay, I am really getting into the teachings now. Anyhow, I'm going to slow down with the Surangama Sutra. So, according to my own pace. Previously, we've already said that lots of arhats, the arhats who achieved attainment, they were all here, such as Shariputra, as well as Vajrayana, as well as Mahakastila. Mahakastila is also called the one who has the Brahmin who has long nails. Why is he also named long-nailed Brahmin? In fact, he is a great arhat. But before he took refuge in Buddhism, he was actually a heretic. He studied in heretic schools. And Kastila, in fact, was the uncle of Shariputra, and his elder sister was the mother of Shariputra. In fact, Kastila, what it means is Mahakastila means it's a great knee. So in that family, it is a genetic characteristic that runs in the family. So he has big knees. When the mother of Shariputra or the elder sister of Kastila just got pregnant, Kastila noticed that he could not win any debate with his sister anymore, which was very unusual because he was very eloquent and very good at debate before and could win over anyone. So he thought to himself that it must be the child rather than his elder sisters getting smarter. So he thought to himself he'd better go out and study, and he wanted to study the 18 great volumes of teachings of the heretics. And before he was able to attain the complete teachings and understood all the teachings of the 18 heretics teachings, he would not come back because he won't be able to win over this child who's going to be born. So he went out and studied for many, many years. But out of his diligence, and he didn't really have time to cut his nails, therefore his nails grew really long, and that is why he's also named as the Brahmin who has long nails. After he was fluent and completely thoroughly understanding the 18 great classics of the heretics, he went back to his home. And after he came back to his hometown, people told him that his nephew, which is Shariputra, understood all the teachings of the whole world when he was 8 years old. And by the age of 16, he was unsurpassable. And then Kostila was extremely unhappy about it. He then went to look for his nephew Shariputra. And then halfway he heard that Shariputra already got ordained and is following a teacher, a monk. He then got even more angry. He went to seek Shariputra and the Buddha. And when he arrived right in front of Shariputra and the Buddha, he felt that he couldn't debate anymore. Just as there's an analogy that a good horse, once upon seeing the shadow of a whip, the good horse would start running right away. So Mahakastila is just like that. Upon seeing the beautiful face of the Buddha, he realized that he cannot debate with him. He realized his deficiency and decided to get ordained and took refuge in the Buddha as well. I think there are lots of people who had great wisdom before studying the Dharma. And this kind of people, the kind of scholastic person who are very smart before taking refuge, and there are two kinds of people, in fact. One, out of this group of people, there are two types. The first type would use the knowledge that they studied before and create lots of contribution. And the other kind would create lots of chaos and detrimental results. So there are really two kinds of people. Anyhow, Mahakastila, in fact, made lots of contribution to the Dharma. He could answer to all kinds of questions because he was one of the best in debate, and he was very eloquent. It is said in the Yuktara, the one with the four perfect knowledges is always able to give fluent replies for difficult questions is Bhikkhu Mahakastila. So this is the first arhat I'm going to introduce to you, and then this, in fact, the third arhat. Then the fourth arhat was Purna Maitri Vaniputra. Purna is the name of his father, which means the fulfilling of the wishes, and Maitra means kindness and is the mother of Purna. So in his name, he has both his father's name and mother's name. And in Chinese, it is, and in Chinese, what it means is that the one who fulfills all the wishes and is the son of the son of the one who fulfills all the wishes and compassionate one, kind one. There are people who have names that's a combination of father and mother's name. Just like if I were to combine my father and mother's name, it sounds a little odd. Also, in Tibet, what we do is that once a person dies, we should not remind others of that person's name anymore. Otherwise, other people would get upset. They would feel that why would you say someone's name who's already? Why would you say some deceased one's names? So this is a Tibetan tradition. If one has if one to have the name of the person who has deceased, then you have to change a different name. Otherwise, people would not dare to call your name anymore if you were to have the similar name. But in the West, I think they have a kind of a different tradition, rather. They would use the middle name to remind others of their ancestry, or use the middle name as a way to commemorate someone and so on. In Chinese, it was first a matriarchal and then later patriarchal society, and then the names were rather different from based on the different times. Anyhow, Purna was in fact a great arhat. He was the foremost in giving teaching and foremost in understanding the teaching as well. It is stated in Surangama Sutra where it said that the one who is skillful in teaching the Dharma and adept at dissertation of the at discerting all kinds of meanings, and knowledge is Bhikshu Purna, the son of wish-fulfilling one. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, in fact, we told lots of his stories. When he was giving teachings to other people, especially the heretics, he was very skillful. I think we told the story. At first, he would go to the heretics and then he would cure them from their illness, and he would act as a doctor. He must be really a good doctor. Some doctors are in fact quite good. They would say that, "Oh, I know your previous and past. I know your past and future lives." Some doctors, if they know the previous and past lives, then I think you are already acting over or stepping over the boundary of stepping over the boundary of being a doctor. Don't even mention Chinese medicine. It is not included in the Western medicine or any kind of medical treatment. But maybe Purna was giving the teachings saying that, "Oh, wow, can I see your tongue? Oh, you must have killed someone in your previous lives. Let me touch your wrist and to test your to see what happened to you in your past life. Oh, in fact, I think you must have killed someone before, and now you have a karmic debt. And it is your karmic creditor who is chasing you and creating this health obstacle in your health right now." But I think this is really over the job descriptions that they have. Maybe you have a black dot on your tongue, and they would say that is your karmic creditor who is chasing you from the behind. But Purna was rather different. Purna was very skillful in giving the teachings. Sometimes, if you are very good at giving treatments and observing or treat illness, this is really great. And I think this is wonderful, but do not mix it with the past and future lives together. It is said that emptiness, we can use theories to explain, then use theories to analyze it. But when it comes to the past and future lives, you cannot explain it with theories. So it must be very difficult. And do not make up things to then scare others. Later on in the 6th volume and other volumes, then Purna was able to attain the realization of emptiness and lots of high levels of insights. So it will be talked later on. And then the other one is Shupati. There was a book called the Xutang's records of Xutang's writing on insights. And it was a book written around the Song Dynasty. And it is said that once Shupati was in meditation, all of a sudden a rain of flowers started to pour down. He said that, who is it that is sending flowers to me? And then he said, and then there's a voice coming from the sky. It was actually the celestial being. And the celestial being said that, thank you so much for your teaching. And Shupati said that I didn't teach a word. And then the celestial being said, yes, you didn't say a word. I didn't hear a word. But that is the most supreme Prajna Paramita. And this sounds very Zen, isn't it? Before I got ordained, we usually would ask people to come to villages and houses to chant the great Prajna Paramita. And we would request the monks to come and chant the many different sutras, including the great Prajna Paramita Sutra. And within that sutra, there was often the name of Shupati often would appear. And then Ramjo is the name of Shupati. In fact, a neighbor asked me, what does Ramjo mean? Because I kept hearing this sound coming up. And I said, I have no idea either, but I guess it was the name of someone. Anyhow, in the great Prajna Paramita, the name Ramjo came up a lot of times. During 11 years of supplication by Vajrayana, if you remember the story, how a mandrashri enters into his mouth after 11 years of supplication, and then after that, he himself were able to understand the emptiness teaching. Just like that, Shupati, in fact, is the foremost in understanding Prajna Paramita and emptiness. So he's one of the greatest masters. When Shakyamuni descended from the sky to the human realm, from the celestial realm to the human realm, at that time, lots of the universal monarchs and when the Buddha descended from the celestial realm to the human realm, in fact, lots of kings and even the universal monarch went there to receive the Buddha with great happiness. And Shupati was about to step out of his retreat cave, but he was mending his clothing. And right about the time that he stepped out of his store, he only walked out for half the step. So at that time, he started contemplating, who is the Buddha? Is the Buddha the five skandhas, or is the Buddha the four elements? Upon contemplating upon this, he felt that Buddha is emptiness, therefore what's the point of going there to receive him? And on the other side, where the kings were there, the four great kings at the time who were there waiting to receive the Buddha, including Prasun Najit as well as Bimbin Samra, they were all waiting there. And then there was a great universal monarch who also showed up to receive the king. And at that time, of course, as a universal monarch would go at first to receive the king. But it was, in fact, the manifestation of the lotus bhikshuni who manifested in such a way, because at that time she was already enlightened. She was already liberated and attained all the powers, numinous penetrations. And then And then she went there first, but all the kings were really upset that a woman, a bhikshuni, actually went in front of, at first to receive the Buddha rather than the kings. Anyhow, the Shubhuti, in fact, didn't show up. And it is said that the Ikotara Agama, that to venerate the Buddha, one should see emptiness of all dharmas in the past and the future. This is the true meaning of venerating the Buddha. When people, it reminds me of when people receive empowerment, they would then ask me first, and they would then take up their seats a few hours prior the actual class in order to sit at the front, in order to be the first. On one hand, yes, I understand that you have faith. Maybe you have faith towards the Guru or faith towards the Dharma. There are people who don't care about it. So I understand from this aspect. But on the other hand, there are lots of masters. There are lots of people who don't want to see the teacher who are sitting at the front. Then it is rather quite upsetting if you lose faith in the Lama. And I remembered Pontsog Rinpoche once during his empowerment. He a Khenpo at that time who tried to elbow through the whole crowd and went to the very front of the line of receiving empowerment from Pontsog Rinpoche. There are people who went to empowerment, and some Jumu, some female practitioners would then ask them to leave and even take them out of their seats. For people who have not enlightened, I think, for the enlightened ones, I don't think they would care so much about the seats. Just like Shubhuti, he didn't even leave his cave. When the Buddha descended from celestial realm and came back to human realm, all the people, all the kings, and all the celestial beings then came to venerate the Buddha. And Shubhuti, at that time, who was already enlightened, he felt that there's really no need to go there because he was enlightened. But for those of us who are not enlightened, I think it is quite important to look at the teacher with great veneration and admiration to receive the Amrita of the Dharma teaching. This is quite necessary as well. So from the two aspects, I both understand. And then Upanishad, in Tibetan is Nyungje, and he attained realization upon observing the particles or atoms. At first, he studied the contemplation and practiced the contemplation of non-purity. In fact, he first practiced observing the external phenomena and then slowly to narrow it down and to refine it all the way to the atom and then realize the emptiness through such kind of contemplation. And it is what his name means. It's emptiness upon observing particles and atoms. There were also countless Pratika Buddhas. And Pratika Buddhas, at the time of the Buddha, in fact, there were no Pratika Buddha. The Pratika Buddha are the ones who then attain realization upon themselves. Therefore, these Pratika Buddhas usually would attain enlightenment between the period of times of two Buddhas appearing in this world. Therefore, Over here, the Pratika Buddhas who are here, they came from other places, other pure worlds. And the Pratika Buddhas, some of them they would practice in groups, and some of them they would practice solo. And there are the ones who came from different worlds. Also, who, since they had conquered their old habits and nothing more to learn, which means the arhats, the Shravakas and arhats, because arhats usually refers to the ones who attain the levels of nothing more to learn, yet came to the Buddha's vihara determined to seek ultimate truth. And lots of bhikshus who had attained the first and second fruition of arhathood. 然后，这可能是个句号吧。然后这个说住比丘就是写这个修下自己。Now, the summer retreat had just finished when the bhikshus took stock of their errors and mistakes, and when the bodhisattvas from the 10 directions determined to wipe out their remaining doubts and suspicion. Usually, the summer retreats, I don't think you understand what summer retreat and took stock of their errors and mistakes are. In fact, a summer retreat is made of the summer retreat custom is made by the Buddha, saying that the bhikshus should not go out in the summer because there are so many bugs and so many animals, so that in order to not kill them by accident, the Buddha asked all the monks to then be in the summer retreat for 3 months. But in Tibet, in fact, because of the special history and environment, we only have 1.5 months of a summer retreat, and usually it is the group of monks who would stay inside the monastery and then practice and so on. Anyhow, they are not supposed to get out of their summer retreats, and they cannot speak ill of each other within this 3 months. And then when it is at the conclusion of the 3 months, when it is at the end of the summer retreat, people have this opportunity to, at the very last day, to see the Buddha. In fact, back in 1986, I went to a monastery, and then I was in a summer retreat for a month and a half. Back in 1988, I went back to that monastery again to be in summer retreat again, and then 1989, I went to a different one. They're very small temples, but they're branches of Doma monasteries. Lots of old masters asked me to go to different monasteries to give teachings as well. At that time, I had not attained the arhathood yet, and I was very careful. I was very detailed in all the things and careful in all the things that I conduct. Anyhow, at that time, there were the bodhisattvas from the 10 directions, and they were there determined to wipe out their remaining doubts and suspicions. Reverently awaited for the teaching in their search for its esoteric meanings, for the profound teachings of the Dharma. At that time, Tathagata arranged his seat and sat cross-legged, proclaimed the profound doctrine of the Dharma. Such a Dharma feast to purify the assembly had never taken place before.
就是欢喜的，就是设宴啊，就是欢喜的这个设宴。那这是什么？这个都未曾有，就是这种就从未
It was never taken. It had never taken place
佛法的
before.
这种戏宴呢，就光寺啊，就是光寺于这个所有的这个大众。那么这个呢，相当于是什么呢？就是这个迦利宾切啊，就是迦利宾切的这个迦利宾切的话呢，就是特别就是。
Kalavinka is a bird who has beautiful voice. It is said that within the shells, the bird has already the most beautiful melodious voice. There are different depictions of Kalavinka birds. In the sutras, there are lots of descriptions of Kalavinka bird.
也有这样的，还有呢，可能还有没有？对，也有这样的。
And this one? 还有几个，他们可能没有提过。这样的，就像那个，这个迦林频切的这个声音一样啊。Kalavinka's voice is the most melodious. So over here, they use the Kalavinka's voice as an analogy to describe the Buddha's voice, Buddha's melodious voice. And the Buddha's melodious voice was heard in the 10 quarters. With this melodious voice, the Buddha started teaching the Dharma. And then at that time, led by Manjushri, a number of bodhisattvas, as countless as sand of grains in the Ganges, had come to the holy place. At that time, this whole group of bodhisattvas were led by Manjushri. So all the bodhisattvas and arhats, later on, the insights and realization they attain through the Surangama Samadhi will be described in the volume 5 and so on. And today we'll stop right over here.
Sonam de danche zebanya tona ni be jana pashe ke ga na chi ran ho zeba zebun zone